Hello there, and welcome back to Automation Days Asia 2021. I really cannot believe it, but we're already at the last major session for today before we start with our closing remarks. These 2 days have flown by really quick, and we really saved the best for last. It is really my great pleasure to introduce Gunjan Khetarpal who's an RPA Solutions Manager at NICE. Gunjan has been involved with RPA at NICE across Asia Pacific for many years and has a track record of over 20 years of proven experience of selling complex enterprise solutions, helping customers on their digital transformation journey, amongst many other activities. Over the years, he had the opportunity to evangelize omni-channel solutions and create differentiated values for the consumers across multiple verticals and industries. Gunjan is passionate about leveraging AI and machine learning techniques to create meaningful impact to humanity. He's a postgraduate in business administration with a major in CRM and has completed postgraduate program AI for Leaders from the McCombs School in Business in Texas. It is really my great pleasure to introduce our last major speaker for today, Mr. Gunjan. Gunjan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ian, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. As Ian mentioned, that this is the last session, but it has to be best, so no pressure. So today I shall be providing a walkthrough on NICE AI-driven virtual assistant and how it can be relevant to organizations across the industry. So as Ian mentioned, my name is Gunjan Khetarpal, and I'm the APAC Solution Manager for RPA in NICE. I have worked across multiple automation technologies, and I truly believe that the robotic automation and AI capabilities offered as a part of virtual assistant is a game changer in the field of contact center as well as customer service. Now, I am not able to move. Yeah. So today's agenda, we are going to have a short view on what NICE brings along. Secondly, I'll be sharing some key insights on the customer service and how it's going through a never before change and how the organizations are adopting automation aligning to their digital transformation journey. Thirdly, I'll also demonstrate how we can develop a dual-pronged strategy wherein we are not only offensive and defensive concurrently while achieving efficiencies, which most of the organizations are aspiring to be. While you scale up, while you achieve your targets as an organization, you need to be compliant and aligned to the regulatory needs of the business while boosting sales. So I have a round of question and answers. I hope the session makes sense and is useful to your time. So NICE is a global leader and it does provide a mission critical software solutions and value added service for public safety and enterprise organizations, offering unmatched breadth and depth of human and financial resources and industry partnerships. We are spread across the globe and acknowledged by major leading analysts as leaders in contact center, workforce engagement management, and also an RPA platform. So our strategy is pretty simple. It is spread across 4 pillars, being digital, providing analytics, cloud, and AI and automation. So as part of today's journey, I'll be emphasizing more on automation front and how the new normal, what we are seeing from the customer service perspective is getting changed, how dynamic it has become. And if you look at the customer service is truly a reflection how customer perceive an organization and its offerings. So if you look at it in the last 1.5 years due to the pandemic, the dynamics have completely changed beyond anyone's imagination. And to adopt, organizations typically are looking at digital transformation. And there are various levers across. While we talk about various levers, we are also trying to emphasize the fact how the digital transformation looks like. Now, one of the statements made by George is that you do not really need a digital strategy, but actually a business model that is enabled by digital. And this has a remarkable point because it really makes sense, right? No point in digitizing your environment when the business owners do not believe in that. You do not have a buy-in or initiatives being driven by the organization. So before we dive into the how part of this representation, I'd like to take this opportunity to provide a slight tweak on how we should think and how what kind of mindset we need to take forward. This is critical because it allows you to see what I am going to share uh, about the technology from a different lens. So let's look at how the new customer experience is going to go forward, right? What are the changes? How the customers are adapting? How the organizations are adapting to the change? And the change has been multifold. What changes were happening in the last 20 years? Probably you will see the similar kind of change in the next 5 years. So to make a point, being digital is not an option anymore. It is the way of doing business. And this is very, very critical for organizations to kind of differentiate themselves from the market. They want to ensure that how the market perceives them as an organization, as a value add capabilities which they provide, and so on. So it is imperative for every organization. So start looking at how they reach their customers, how customers are able to engage with them at various omni-channel platforms. And this is where we talk about how do we accelerate the digital transformation. Customers are expectations are changing. To reiterate, nothing demonstrates this better than the recent change what we have seen. And I've already emphasized that fact that because of pandemic, the changes have been immense. The customer experience organization are basically finding themselves to react to basically two major underlying changes or challenges. Number one, they have to move their employees to work from home. Most of the employees today are working from home or remotely because going to offices is no longer an option. The second challenge is that they have found it very demanding times that the service of the customers, the expectation of the customers have increased sizably. Most of the people are stressed, they're concerned, they're emotional about how the way the life is treating them, the scenarios what they have to account for. And that is actually driving the interaction volumes much higher than as expected earlier. And this challenges how to create the challenge basically is how to create those extraordinary customer experience even if there are growing uncertainty, complexity, and change. Having said that, the point is that you have to look at the bigger picture, right? While we talk about bigger picture, it is important uh, the organizations doing business is not carrying out similar activities in the old traditional manner. They have to transform. If they do not transform, the point will be that they shall not be in the business anymore. And these are trying times, right? In these times we need to transform, the organizations needs to transform and adapt to their changing expectations. And this is the single most critical factor for business survival and success. And this brings in a combination of technology and culture. When we talk about customer service, in traditional sense, it was only contact center where you had a support interactions happening at the end of the journey. But the fact of the matter is that most of the organizations today are dealing with customer in the initial stage of reaching out to the customers. They are trying to create awareness. They are trying to make the customer more familiar with the products and services being offered. They are trying to ensure that the sales cycles is improved upon. It is easier to do business. It's simplified. It's the experience does matter. Customers tend to buy from organizations, any service or product where they find it is simple to do carry out any transaction. And that is where we are looking at most of the behavioral change which most of the organizations today are facing with respect to leveraging omni-channel platforms, where they are reaching out via social media, via various aspects, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's an integration web form, and so on. So there have been various compelling reasons for the organizations providing customer service to adapt fast. And this is where we are talking about the ever-changing needs of a digital world, where earlier when we are talking about what customers might think. So the next question which basically comes to everyone's mind is, what do I do now? Where do I start? Who should I delegate this to? Because the transactions, the volumes have increased. And there are basically five actions which most of the CX leaders have embarked on since early 2021, and some possibly in 2020 itself. Develop a new strategy to deliver. They are trying to see if the information updates to the customer are proactive in nature. The second option, what they typically look is deploy automation technologies, and which is basically where we are going to focus a little more during this session and in the course of later stage as we go about it. They also are conscious of the fact that most of the employees are working remotely, and that is it is important for them to motivate their customers, their employees. At the same time, they want to ensure that the amount of additional workload which has come to the employees is reduced. There is someone to support the employees, there is someone to guide the employees as needed. While there are technical specialists across the IT organizations, most of the organizations are trying to align the IT offerings to work at home initiatives as well. So there has been a tremendous shift in the focus, because by 2023, as per Gartner, as per the surveys being done, it is perceived that 30% of the customer service will be delivered proactively. There will be 35% of the customer service workload that will be done through crowdsourcing, through telecommuting, through work from home agents. And you need to have some standardized and easier way of doing business. So the 60% of the customer service engagements will be done via digital. And if the organization is not say aligned to the new digital wave, they'll be left behind, and most likely than not, they'll be without any business as such in moving forward. So they have to adapt or perish. That's the message which most of the organizations are trying to address today. So while we look at various aspects of technology, it is important that how do we address that? You need to bring a maturity as part of your digital customer service, and to be effective, it is important to invest for future growth as part of spend what they have. They also want to ensure what does that mean to invest in the right initiatives so that they can deliver a long-term cost optimization, which is aligned to some business outcomes, some milestones to fund their future growth. In this instance, there are top five digital capabilities which most of the organizations are looking at as part of the digital journey. One of them happens to be automation, which is the focus of discussion today. Now, while we talk about cost optimization, there are two ways of looking at it. While you look at customer service, there are challenges which are perceived or seen across most of the organizations. End users are no longer loyal to a particular brand, and they are open to exploring products and services which offer them better digital platforms, good experience, and ease of doing business. And this is where most of the organizations are grappling with. Customer service has a huge impact for every organization today to retain their existing customers as well as expand their customer base. And this is where the importance of ensuring that you are bringing in the right set of digital transformation, bringing the right digital platforms, and ensuring that you can optimize the workload of an agent while they are engaged with the customer becomes very, very important. So I can divide into four aspects. It could be aligned to system, processes, information which has to be gathered by the agent. And also, while they are providing service, they have to align and ensure that they are complying to the regulatory ever-changing needs across industry, across countries, across specific regions. And this is important because as things change, there are new rules, there are new regulatory needs coming in, and more often than not, many of the agents are not trained or upskilled to align with those. And this is another challenge which can have a huge impact or bearing to the organization brand image, and also they might incur some monetary impact because of the fines and issues or lawsuits which they have to go through. So these are some of the things which they have to account for, while the expectations have exceeded, the complexity of the processes have also increased drastically, and most of the agents are unable to cope up. While they are engaging with the customers, they are not sure what regulations they are not aligning with, whether they have all the information knowledge base, whether the right information has been provided to them to support customer. Today customer does not want to call up only for one reason. They might have three reasons to reach out to a contact center. And that is where one agent, if he's not skilled enough for every all the areas, will keep on asking the customers to call up a different say customer line, or transfer it to a different agent. And this again say heightens the frustration level of a particular customer. And this is exactly something which most of the organizations are trying to solve. The agent is also like having a lot of things to do at the back end. They have to kind of carry out updating various systems depending on the request or the queries of the customer, or capture some of the data which is repetitive in nature. So imagine, like, more often than not, one agent typically has to look at least 10 applications on 15 to 20 screens for every request a customer might have. And this is huge. They have to get trained on that. They need to access multiple systems. The systems may not be available to them, so they might have to log in each and every time. They might have to make judgment calls. And unless and until they are empowered, it becomes very, very difficult for an agent to complete a call in what we call as a first call resolution itself. And this is where some of the challenges which I highlighted are being shared here. So what are the major concerns? What are the major opportunities? When you have challenges, you also have opportunities, and that is where most of the organizations need to work on. There is an increase in interaction volumes. There is a longer handle time. So every call is taking much more longer. The customer needs have changed. The agents are working no longer at a centralized location. They are remote, and that is where the technology and security has to be support them while they embark on supporting the customer journey. So these are the realities of the customer service organizations dealing with it, and they have to address it. And while we talk about that, there is competition which every organization, irrespective whether it is a contact center, whether it's a product company, whether it's a customer service company, have to also account for, to be relevant, to remain competitive. And that is where they have to address some of the things which are paramount or are quite normal in a contact center or customer service organization, where there is a high attrition rate. What I understand, it's around 20% in year. And typically an agent to come on board and start being productive, it takes anywhere between 3 months to 6 months. And that is the time when you are losing out on customers. There are regulatory needs which they have to account for. Agent engagement model and consistency has to be provided. It should not happen that somebody calls up a contact center and I take a call, and I have a certain way of interacting with the customer. But when somebody else is reached out, the person has a complete different way of interacting with the customer, and that has a long lasting impact on the customer. Most of the organization want to bring in some sort of standardization. You want to improve the quality and efficiency of the environment, of the setup which has been brought in. And that is where they are also looking to ensure that the contact centers are no longer considered as a cost center. They're also trying to make it as a profit center by helping the agents upsell a particular discussion, wherein in the past the agents typically would be more relevant in carrying out something as an afterthought this becomes a proactive approach, which most of the customers would like to address, or organizations like to address. So when there was a survey done at a US contact center decision making guide, which has been released in 2021, and the customer satisfaction remains to be the top priority for most of the organizations. Agents are frustrated due to long work hours, due to which there is a high attrition rate, as I mentioned, and this puts a lot of pressure on hiring team to get the right talent, and then the gestation period where they need to train them. And these are some of the other challenges which most of the organizations are dabbling with, and the figures indicate what exactly I've been talking about, that there is huge amount of repetitive tasks or after work to be done. There are many applications to be accounted for and addressed, and these all are good candidates and areas where automation or RPA or robotic automation can bring value to it. Now there are various technologies, various vendors talking about automation, but more often than not, it is observed that most of the organizations are only addressing something which is repetitive in nature. So you have a process clearly defined, and there is step 1 to step 10, which do not change much, and you basically carry out the automation of those process from step 1 to step 10. But this is only so much, there is only so much you can do in a process which is clearly defined. And as per McKinsey and Gartner, I think only 30% of the processes can be automated in an unattended fashion, and that leaves around 70% of the processes which require some sort of human intervention, where you need to bring in some kind of value. And then the second piece of automation being spoken about is attended automation. But again, in attended automation, people only reflect to something getting triggered by a agent, or some agent or some supervisor has to kind of confirm or validate whether a particular process can proceed further, or there needs to be some further checks to be done. And these are very afterthought kind of way of doing automation. There is no guidance being provided which is real time. Today most of the customer service and engagement, customer will not wait for say n number of times to kind of look back, come back saying that, okay, what is that you have for me. The agent has to be very up has to be enabled and empowered to ensure that he or she is able to provide all the necessary responses which the customer is looking for in real time or near real time. There is someone supporting the agent in a real time guidance faction. And that is where I think by fueling automation, by bringing automation, you can really fuel the digital transformation across. So let's see what's the path to digital transformation, and where does really automation fit in. One of the things which I want to highlight here is that it's just not about automating a task or a process, but it also needs to be driven as a part of digital transformation initiative by an organization. You just don't automate a task and process and see and start seeing a value. The value is when you define the journey of automation. You define the journey of digital initiative within an organization. You define the business outcomes which you are looking for. It's just not about automation. In traditional sense, we always had scripts, we had macros which could automate certain tasks. So what's the fun in having another tool which we call it as a robotic automation to kind of look at it, do the exact same thing in a different way. So let's talk about the value which NICE brings to the picture, where NEVA brings people and robots together. You have already heard about NICE and our presence in the market. Now let's talk about NEVA. NEVA is basically NICE Employee Virtual Attendant. It is powered by attended automation technology of NICE. And the focus is that it extends automation for the people. It enables agents, users, to have an intelligent decision making, and also empowers employees by guiding them on necessary processes which they are accounted for or addressing as in real time. It is not an afterthought. So if you have to define what NEVA is, NEVA is one solution which provides true real-time integration and also addresses intelligent capabilities which are required to effectively support enterprise-wide digital transformation. And in the coming slides, you will understand how do we differentiate what's the value of NEVA. It's just not about attended automation. It's not about unattended automation. It's the real-time engagement which we empower, which we ensure that the agent has all the data points, all the value which he or she can provide to the customer. And basically the goal is to have a customer delight rather than customer struggling to get the responses to his queries. So while we look at in that direction, there are various ways automation can be put in by NEVA. All said and done, you have options of looking at NEVA in various ways. The way I want to look at is talking about what NEVA is all about, right? NEVA can handle automation on the desktop. So any process which is led by an employee, but at some point goes into a series of routine steps, which is a traditional automation, attended automation. NEVA can actually take over those actions. She can be activated by manual triggering or by an employee, or could be automatically done by some trigger points defined as part of the desktop. NEVA can also trigger an unattended automation to execute tasks at the backend. So there could be always scenarios where agent have some backend tasks to be completed once the call has been completed with the customer. So for example, if the employee finishes a task and the next task includes a lengthy sequence of steps which is repetitive in nature, NEVA will offload those actions to the backend bot. The third aspect could be the NEVA has a capability to support many different use cases and real-time operations and customer service needs in the contact center at scale. It can provide business insights, it can provide analytics, it can provide real-time employee guidance, it can have real-time automation and orchestration, and also integrating bringing cognitive capabilities. Just to be clear, I think the time has gone by where people were only talking about automation of repetitive tasks. I think the next stage or next layer to automation is cognitive automation, where you're not only integrating AI ML capabilities, but also bringing in real-time guidance, real-time analytics, and that is the value which most of the organizations are looking at it. Repetitive tasks, anyone can do it, anyone can automate, whether you use a script base, whether you use a macros, or whether you use an RPA/RDA tool. So NEVA is can be triggered by agents both in office and at home. It is not limited to a particular location. It can help you in responding to queries instantly. It can help to address some of the queries, and it can still remain compliant, which is very important, as I have been highlighting earlier. NEVA can also integrate with a chatbot. It can offer a built-in integration with, say, examples like Amazon Lex. And but there's no say limitation on which other chatbots it can integrate. It can integrate it with any of them. The idea is to increase employee engagement and also the adoption of NEVA. Another area where NEVA can help is to solve any conflicts and handle exceptions that can be attended bot may and that an unattended bot may encounter. So it could so happen that when you define an automation, you define a variable where you talk about, okay, if this happens, then you are defining a rule. If this happens, do X. If it does not happen, do Y. But the fact is that there will be scenarios where you may not have a rule defined for a particular request, and that is considered as an exception, and that is what NEVA can handle as well. So NEVA is not about unattended or attended automation. It is a virtual assistant which can be leveraged by the agent. It can help the agent in not only delivering a real-time service but also initiate the back-end task completion. So if somebody has to really call it out, do we really know how much it cost for compliance issues? Most of the companies are struggling with it. They can actually save 20 times the cost of having to monitor and address them, uh, any any compliance aviation, by just bringing in a real time process guidance from NEVA. This is what we see in most of our customer base, that they have been able to save on operations, on managing environments by at least 20 times by just initiating and bringing in NEVA as part of the process. Now let's look at how does it do it, right? This is all about what NEVA is all about. But having said that, it is important that you understand what are the things it can capture in a more say descriptive way. So when we are talking to our customers, we believe that 40 to 60% of agents could still stay at home forever, even after pandemic, and the social distancing of offices will reduce as well. Now there are challenges. A lot of time is wasted on completion of mundane tasks. Processes have become complex, as we have seen, and agents are struggling. They are struggling because of lack of guidance, because lack of support, and so on. And the result is that overall, they have the employees are getting frustrated. The organizations are seeing compliance issues because agents have started taking shortcuts to complete a process. They are not fulfilling the requirement of regulatory needs, and that is where automation really helps. It becomes most effective with interaction that involves simpler tasks, but does but it also has other aspects. Here the human touch is not that critical, right? Where you have backend tasks, but AI can provide a straightforward information to customers without having to wait for the agent to come back next day on work. So there are certain aspects which can be covered, and these are the things which NEVA can bring to the table as an offer to the customer. Now, while we talk about that, while we look at that aspect, we also need to understand what's the question most of the organizations are looking at to address. What are the questions they are trying to address as part of it? One of the things which I get to hear, and in my past experience, most of the organization start having an excuse first. I have not automated because I do not have time. But the fact of the matter is that they do not have time because they have not automated. That's a fact. Now, if they were able to streamline their processes, if they were able to bring in automation, then they would have ample of time to carry out multiple things. So the question comes back, why should I automate? Where do I start? Right? Now, those are the questions being asked. The perception is some of the organizations have a perception, right? They will replace that it will replace people. That's not entirely true. The RP can actually help support people, not replace them, and it handle tasks, not processes. For processes, you will still have many judgment calls which are required to be taken and which are only possible by a human being. So why automation projects really fail, right? Because you define a process which is essentially not the right candidate for automation, not suitable for the next right process. It has challenges where you're not able to optimize the process right, because you're not able to gain anything, whether it's a financial outcome, whether it's a compliance outcome, whether it is a scalability outcome or an efficiency outcome. So you have to really define as an outcome. You need to have a buy-in from the organizations looking to automate to ensure that you are able to align and meet those outcomes as need be. Otherwise, it becomes a technology discussion. Automation, digital transformation, bringing a capability which is aligned to business is a business owner discussion. It's the value which you can bring to the business, That is what you need to focus on rather than technology. It's no longer about technology, but the outcome which you can achieve with automation. And that is where it is important to identify the right process. And nice, we help the customer identify the right process with the with the AI enabled capability, which is Automation Finder. It allows you to find the right process and stacks ranks them so that the customer is completely aware that what processes are good for automation. While you are able to develop, it is important that not only you find the process quickly and in a right and the right candidate, but also put in production the process which you are identified. That is where you have take to automate. And the third piece, what we also do is, as I mentioned earlier, we have a suite of product portfolio, be it on data, be it on contact center, be it on work from home capabilities, be it on bringing in capabilities from the perspective of cloud. All these capabilities can also be integrated, and these are definitely a need of the hour for contact center. So one of the things which I really find amusing is that I keep hearing that automation solves every problem. Not really. It is only solving a piece of the puzzle. The rest of the things still have to be accounted for. How do you ensure that the employees are working, right? They're addressing, there is standard some kind of calibration in place. How do you ensure that you are able to capture the scheduling of the agents? And automation can integrate with them, but it cannot define how the agents are working. So that is where you need a collaborative, interactive way of dealing with things, and also integrate with portfolio of products. And in nice, the good thing is that you do not have to find many technologies and start integrating. These all technologies are available and can be integrated on day one. So the idea is the typical benefits, what most of the organizations look for is bringing efficiency to their environment, bringing in capabilities from the perspective of increasing their efficiency to scale up business, scale up operations, and also eliminate the errors. These are traditional benefits of process automation, and this anyone, everyone can do it. There's no rocket science in that. But having said that, most of the key say milestones or key areas where contact center or customer office is really interested is, how do I ensure that I am able to have say close my first call successfully and improve the customer experience, which is nothing but your first contact resolution. The second is, how do you differentiate, how do you handle and reduce the time taken to handle a customer requirement. So in today's economy, organization will differentiate by experience and will create loyalty and customer advocacy through superior, high quality customer service engagement. In one of the surveys, what we know of, 36% of the respondents chose customer satisfaction, as I mentioned earlier, as the most important measurement a customer contact center tracks. So if you are able to comply, improve the customer engagement, increase customer employee engagement, reduce the workload of an agent, reduce the need to hire more people, but make them happy employees. And as we all know, any organization which is having a happy employee will always have a happy customer, and that is the premise of what we look at from ensuring as part of the process. Now, while we look at various things, what exactly it can do. So if I have to give you an example to kind of expand on what I have already spoken about, what NEVA can do for your employees. It can handle low value admin task, as I said earlier. It can also focus on high value activities with respect to guidance factor in collaboration with a human, where you need special human skills. So what it can do, it can provide real guidance. It can ensure that it can highlight and give a call out on the compliance scripts. It can ensure that you are able to kind of carry out tasks which was not in place earlier. It can provide so example sake, if you're starting, so let me give you an example, right? If you are starting a claims process, NEVA can provide links to the relevant systems and screens, and she can also collect the relevant data from multiple systems and consolidate into a call out. So the agent immediately gets to know what needs to be done, what is the information available, while still interacting with the customer. And during that time, the agent can provide empathy to the customer, which the customer is looking for. And this all can be done within a matter of seconds. You can automate tasks. Example sake, it is not limited to only say claim process. There are hundreds of other reasons. If you're starting a HR process and you need to fill up new employee contract, right? NEVA can complete the process for us and automate the form filling, which is much faster and more accurate than anyone doing it manually. So think about the changes which the employee needs to work on. They need to be completely focused on customer interaction and not on desktop complexities or processes. Customers need not hold on as much as before. So at least I have a major challenge when I call up any of the services. The agent keeps telling me hold on for some time so that I can capture the data. Now that basically adds up to my frustration level, because I'm looking for an answer immediately. And if I can provide a medium to an agent saying that, okay, you keep on focusing on the customer while I do the activities which are back end and which requires none of your intervention, and consolidate the data so that your engagement with customer can be much more fruitful. And all said and done, it's all about robots working with people side by side. It is about supporting them. It's about making them more engaged, motivated, and perform much better. So it can be activated in three ways, as I said, right? It can be activated by desktop analytics, it can be manually activated by employees, or it could be chat or voice activated as well. So some of the examples which we see is achieving efficiency, achieving ensuring compliance, and boost sales. Now I'll expand on that, how examples really look at while we are talking about various examples in case of solutions being provided. Now just to sum up, like when we talk about guidance, right? How does NEVA provide guidance? So while agent is interacting and agent needs to really get some data, by knowing what kind of conversation, what kind of process is being spoken about, NEVA can actually provide the links and the links to the system, and it also provides the actions which needs to be taken, and it displays a complete summary to the data. So now the agent knows what it needs to do, and depending on the data and the responses received by the agent, NEVA can carry on and complete the backend task. The second could be on compliance things, right? Where we have spoken about most of the organizations today are suffering because of non compliance of processes, which are invoking a lot of challenges for many of the organizations. So NEVA can keep on having a proactive approach in prompting the employees that if they are doing something which is not as per the policy, it will bring up some sort of disclaimers, as you see on the slide. It will ensure that the compliance related tasks are completed without going forward. It will align you new policies. Agents is aware there are ever changing policies which even a employee may not have been updated about. And this is a mechanism where you can bring in some sort of standardization and ensure compliance is 100%. The third could be boosting the sales. And as I said earlier, many customers are looking to convert, organizations are looking to convert contact center from being a cost center to a profit center. So while the agent is embarked on a discussion, example say there's an insurance policy to be say renewed, or a customer is calling for an insurance policy, then if NEVA can help guide the agent saying that, okay, during the renewal policy there is a better policy which expands the gamut of the coverage model, why don't you share that with the customer, right? Now agent may not have been aware, or because of day-to-day activities or the workload may not be able to completely think of those options. And NEVA, being proactive in nature, can actually identify those areas and highlight it to the agent. Now, with details in hand, agent just has to communicate on the updated options or the value add options which the organization can also offer. And many organizations are starting to see that while the renewals of, say, insurance policies are happening, they are also able to upsell. And this also has boosted their sales. So this is another way where NEVA can help you. Now let me show you a quick example, right, which I was talking about NEVA helping the agents with respect to upsell a particular technology. Now, sorry, let me know if you are able to see the video.
Yes, we
So
are
NEVA
able.
basically notifies the agent and highlights that there is an upsell opportunity happening. The agent can modify the code in the technology, and NEVA then automatically imports that. Now, with this all information, the customer is being notified that there is a base coverage and there is an uplifted coverage with a special pricing. And if the customer agrees about the options which he agrees upon, the agent can choose those as an upsell options and update the system. And NEVA can go ahead and create the updated insurance policy for the customer. Now, this is a very, very simple example, but valid for most of the organizations. How do you upsell? And this is where NEVA can help you. Now, all said and done. So this brings to the concluding slide what I have. What we discussed about is various aspects of the technology, about what contact centers are doing, and how does NEVA help you in enabling a customer experience to be better. So it works in partnership with the employees. It can it can carry out more processes much faster, intelligently. It can have accurate processing time. The inclusion of NEVA can help our closure and have a better alignment to the human workforce. It can ensure that you are able to provide a better capability for agent and empower them so that they can do their jobs much efficiently and in much scalable way. So these are some of the KPIs which NEVA addresses as part of the solution. While we look at that, this basically talks about what we do as an operational or business assessment, which can be facilitated by a nice business consultant who can lead you through business perspectives. So I'll highly suggest if you or your customers are looking for assessment of their business, trying to see if this kind of capability makes sense, if there is a value to money, if there's a business outcome which it can help to achieve, then please reach out. The QR code you can see on there. The business consultant will typically hold workshops with various business owners and partners, and to understand what kind of impact it can bring in and what kind of value it can generate for the business. And depending on the buy-in, we can move forward in our discussion towards expanding the horizon of solutions and processes. So thank you so much for inviting me here. And before we wrap up, I'll give you a few some interesting pointers which you want to look at. You can stay in this. You can look at nice as or a nice NEVA as a virtual assistant, as I spoke about, but also as someone who who is there to help you in good, bad, and ugly situations. It can provide guidance, it can provide analytics, it can complete the task for you and make your life, the agent's life, much easier. So thank you so much for listening to me. I hope the session was useful and I'm open to taking questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gunjan. This was a really, really interesting question. I see a lot of comments coming in from the audience, so I think they all agree. What I personally found very interesting is how you basically embed that real-time transaction automatically into those systems. We're almost out of time for this last session, but I saw some interesting questions coming in. So if you would be okay with taking two quick questions before we're moving towards our what is already going to be our conference close.
Sure.
So the first question, I'll project it on the screen real quick, which is coming from Mohammed Nasri. Mohammed is asking, do you foresee that with the growth of AI capability, that automation will not just be only on task execution, but covers a lot more, which may include predictive analysis and even decision making at some point?
That's a great question, and I absolutely agree with that. Automation of repetitive tasks is a thing of past. People are looking to bring in cognitive capabilities. They want predictive analysis. They want to have some sort of judgments depending on the historical data which you have. But the fact of the matter is, even to bring in AI, you need to have a mature data. And this is the point which most of the organization do miss, because if you do not have a data which on which AI can create a value, it's not going to give you an outcome which you expect. So it is important for us to understand that AI is going to be useful if you are able to churn various AI models, and the AI models require a good data set. So the
Good. I think that kind of answers it directly. I have one more question, if you are okay with answering that, and then we'll move towards a wrap up.
absolutely.
Last question is, how are regulatory requirements embedded? Because you spoke a lot about those regulatory requirements. Yeah, it's a great question, I think.
Absolutely. I think it is paramount that every organization offering any capability has to have a regulatory, say, capability imbibed in a platform itself. So we do have our platforms are GDPR compliant. We align with various regulatory, say, validations or say certifications which are required. And yeah, we can talk more on that, but the answer is that yes, it is imbibed as part of the platform itself.
Good. Thanks so much for that, Gunjan, and thanks also for still moderating those questions today. So we truly saved the best for last.
I hope so. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. It was a really great pleasure to have you here, and thanks so much for sharing your insights. That, ladies and gentlemen, is already going to be one of our last presentations. I would strongly encourage you to join us at our closure of the Automation Days 2021, which will start in around 10 minutes. It's going to be a very short session, but we're going to introduce some new things for you and how you can get involved with automation and for the next kinds of conferences. So if I can ask another 10 minutes of your time for the conference closure, which will start, as you know, in a new session in 10 minutes from now. Thanks again to Gunjan for participating today, and we'll see everyone back at the conference closure that starts in 8 minutes from now.
Yep. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye.